Iran and Israel continue their attacks as U.S. threatens to obliterate Iranian power plants. Cuba loses all power for the third time this month. And Premier Li Qiang says China will continue to open up. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. As the war with Iran is now in its fourth week, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to hit and obliterate various Iranian power plants if the country did not open the Strait of Hormuz in 48 hours. The ultimatum came barely a day after he spoke about winding down the U.S. offensive. This as Iran launched a new wave of missile attacks on the cities in southern Israel, injuring dozens of people. Danny Zhou reports.
In a social media post, Donald Trump stated that the U.S. would take out Iran's energy facilities, starting with the biggest one first. The freedom of navigation is not fully restored at the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours. The strait carries around 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas supplies. Tehran has effectively closed the choking point following the outbreak of the war, which sent global oil prices skyrocketing, but claims that the strait remains open to all shipping except vessels linked to Iran's enemies. In response to the post, Iran's armed forces on Sunday pledged to target the U.S. and its allies' critical infrastructure, including energy facilities, IT system, and desalination plants in the Gulf, if Trump carried out his threat. Admiral Brad Cooper, head of the U.S. Central Command, gave update on the Operation Epic Fury, noting the U.S. troops remain on plan to eliminate Iran's ability to project meaningful power outside its borders.
My operational assessment continues to be Iran's combat capability is on a steady decline as our offensive strikes ramp up. We not only took out the facility, but also destroyed intelligence support sites and missile radar relays that were used to monitor ship movements. Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz is degraded as a result, and we will not stop pursuing these targets.
The civilian ports of Bushehr were also targeted by U.S.-Israeli fire, causing significant damage to the facilities and to passenger vessels. Video footage showed flames and smoke rising from the site on Saturday. An official Iranian news agency reported that the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility was shattered in an airstrike earlier Saturday, but there was no radiation leakage. On Saturday night, Tehran struck two communities in southern Israel not far from Israel's main nuclear research center, marking the first time that Iranian missiles penetrated Israel's air defense systems in the area. About 70 people were left with injuries in the city of Arad, where at least 10 apartment buildings were damaged. Rescue teams were conducting searches in the buildings to determine if there are additional victims. In the remote desert city of Dimona, authorities say more than 24 people were lightly injured. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu admitted it was a very difficult evening in the campaign for their future. Iran's parliament speaker signaled on social media that the Israeli regime is operationally entering a new phase of the battle if it's unable to intercept missiles in the heavily protected Dimona area. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with Saudi Arabia and Bahrain's leaders to discuss the escalating conflict in the Middle East. This as Gulf countries have reported more attacks from Iran. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Hezbollah group says its fighters have been engaged in ongoing clashes with Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. Trace Furness has more.
An explosion and smoke rising from a border village in South Lebanon. Lebanon's Hezbollah group says its fighters were engaged in ongoing clashes with Israeli forces in the town of Qiyam in the Al-Jahir neighborhood, using light and medium weapons as well as rocket-propelled projectiles. The Iran-backed group said it was targeting Israeli military posts along the border. This is Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa of Bahrain in Manama to discuss the escalating conflict in the region, as Gulf countries have reported more attacks from Iran. The Egyptian president also met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia in Jeddah for discussions on the war. Saudi Arabia said it downed 20 Iranian drones over a couple of hours in the east of the country, home to major oil installations. In the Spanish capital, Madrid, left-wing and anti-capitalist groups, along with pro-Palestinian organizations, marched against the war in Iran Saturday. A few thousand people marched carrying banners reading "No to War," "Peace," NATO bases out of Spain, and "Down with Trump and Zionism." Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has emerged as Europe's most consistent vocal critic of US President Donald Trump, drawing Trump's ire for refusing to allow the American military to stage operations for its attacks on Iran from Spanish military bases. This as the UK's Foreign Secretary said Saturday that the United Kingdom continues not to be involved in any military offensive action in the Iran war, but continues to support defensive action.
We're not and continue not to be involved in offensive action, and we've taken a different view from the US and Israel on this. But we are supporting defensive action to support our interests in the UK national interest, and that includes recognising Iran's escalating threats to international shipping, as well as their threats to our Gulf partners, none of whom were involved in the initial strike as well. We want to see a swift resolution to this conflict because that is what is in everyone's interests.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has said that Havana would be open to a serious and responsible dialogue with the U.S., but emphasized it will be without interference in internal affairs. This as Cuba's power grid collapsed again Saturday, leaving the country without electricity for a third time in March, as the government battles with a decaying infrastructure and a U.S.-imposed oil blockade. The Cuban Electric Union announced a total blackout across the island without initially giving a cause for the outage. The breakdowns are accompanied. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he will order federal immigration officers to take a role in airport security starting Monday unless Democrats agree on a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security. The Republican president suggested ICE agents will bring the administration's immigration crackdown into the nation's airports, promising to arrest all illegal immigrants. Minority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer introduced a motion to fully fund Transportation Security Administration.
Republican Senator, do you want the chaos at our airports to come down, yes or no? If you've had enough of long lines, if you want TSA workers to get paid, then vote yes on the motion I am bringing before the Senate today. Democrats want to pay TSA workers ASAP with no strings attached. A yes vote would do that.
The China Development Forum kicked off today in Beijing, during which Premier Li Qiang criticized certain countries for weaponizing the global supply chain. Li further emphasized China will remain open to the world and will continue defending fair competition as well as ensuring economic growth.
The annual China Development Forum began today at the nation's capital, with Premier Li Qiang delivering the opening speech. Li said China will strengthen its effort to maintain stable economic growth in a bid to facilitate a healthy business-friendly environment and import more high-quality overseas products to reassure foreign businesses in their development. The premier stressed China will continue embracing free trade and maintain its goal of further opening up to the world, increasing economic cooperation with different nations. Li also cited the 15th Five-Year Plan, emphasizing that it provides new opportunities for global development. On the nation's economic growth, Li said he hopes for China's GDP to reach $170 trillion in 5 years. Speaking about the rising tide of protectionism across the world, the premier warned of attacks on the global order and certain nations of engaging in bullying behavior. Li did not directly condemn the U.S. for causing a large-scale decline in global trade. He said some countries have chosen to build fortresses and start trade wars, but noted that protectionism has been proven a failure on multiple occasions throughout history. Li also criticized certain nations for weaponizing the global supply chain, weakening development capabilities around the world. Responding to earlier American condemnation of China's overcapacity in the production of goods, the premier rejected the accusation, stressing that there is fair transaction as long as one party wishes to buy and the other wishes to sell. Besides the premier, attendees at the forum also included Apple CEO Tim Cook, as well as some 700 representatives of the industrial and business sectors.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan said Hong Kong must strengthen its connection with the mainland in the future. Chan is in Beijing at the moment. Writing on his weekly blog, Chan said he had met representatives from different sectors at Beijing's China Development Forum, who all agreed that Hong Kong is a rare safe haven and a place for investment. He said the SAR must enhance its development and show its unique advantages and opportunities amid the complicated geopolitical situation. When meeting with a group of foreign business executives in Beijing, Vice Premier He Lifeng pledged China will unswervingly expand high-standard opening up and pursue high-quality development in the 15th five-year plan period. He says such efforts will create wider market opportunities for multinational corporations. The talks took place at the Diaoyutai State Guesthouse on Saturday. Senior representatives of multinational corporations, including HSBC, UBS, Louis Dreyfus, Siemens Healthineers, Prudential, and Standard Chartered were in attendance. Yi, also a member of the Politburo, highlighted the progress and overall stability of China's economy, propelled by innovation-led and high-quality development. The vice premier contended that China welcomes multinational corporations to ramp up investment in the country and continuously deepen mutually beneficial cooperation. The executive said they have full confidence in China's economic outlook and are committed to further expanding their presence in the Chinese market. And still ahead, private residences turn into student dormitories as lawmakers call for tighter control. Update Child celebrates Hong Kong's seafaring heritage. And massive storms drench North Shore and other parts of Hawaii. Welcome back. TVB News found several private residences have been modified into dormitories housing mainland secondary students studying in Hong Kong, with each unit charging a monthly rent of over $10,000. Some lawmakers suggested that authorities should introduce a licensing system to regulate non-school-run dormitories.
Here at this To Ko Wan unit are a total of 3 rooms offering 4 bunk beds. The manager wants to attract mainland students studying in the city. The monthly rent for each bed costs between $15,000 and $16,000. The manager of the unit said he never interferes with the lives of the students and only requires tenants to return before their curfew at 9:30 p.m. Another similar unit in Kai Tak provide beds at the same monthly rent of around $15,000. According to a real estate agency website, units in the same housing complex come at a monthly rent of between $32,000 and $37,000. That means the manager of the unit could receive up to $120,000 in monthly bed rentals alone if all 8 beds are occupied. The manager of the unit said 2 of the beds have been taken so far, adding that a family of 4 is looking into accommodation at his unit as well. Under the Bed Space Apartments Ordinance, only units that lease 12 or more bed spaces need to provide a designated license, meaning that the aforementioned units are currently legal. This, as the manager of secondary school dormitories, said it is better to have clear rules for those renting out such units to follow. Sources said the education sector is planning to roll out special licenses targeting private residences turned dormitories, with some lawmakers suggesting that authorities could introduce better regulation. Lawmaker Lawrence Tang from the Election Committee noted that further regulation could increase the responsibility of those managing such dormitories. He stressed that dorm operators should provide relevant licenses proving their capability of running such services. Meanwhile, the Education Bureau said the government regulates student dorms in accordance with different modes of operation, targeted tenants, and quality of service. The Bureau further said it will take legal action against those suspected of operating such sites illegally.
The independent committee investigating the Tai Po fire will hear the testimony of witnesses on Tuesday. The committee completed its opening submission last Friday. The first 2 public hearings for the Tai Po blaze tragedy took place in Central on Thursday and Friday. While the upcoming hearing is scheduled on Tuesday, the committee has not revealed the list of witnesses who would present at the testimony. But Victor Dawes, senior counsel of the committee, said 2 directors of Prestige Construction and Engineering The contractor won for court, had only submitted written testimony, and refused to attend the hearings. Chief Executive John Lee earlier said that the government would exercise legal authority on anyone who tries to flee from responsibility. High-speed rail has begun pre-selling tickets for next month's Qingming and Easter holidays. Tickets for the first 2 days have already sold out for some popular destinations. Some travel agencies have not been allocated tickets, and as a result, the itineraries of certain tour groups have been affected. Mo Sinai has more.
With less than 2 weeks to go before the holidays, some passengers have gone to the West Kowloon high-speed rail station to try to buy tickets. One passenger said he couldn't get tickets online and had to come to the station because too many people were traveling. Another passenger said she originally planned to buy tickets on her phone, but the app showed many trains were already full, so she made a special trip to the station to purchase tickets. On China Railway's 12306 website, tickets are generally sold up to 15 days in advance. The site shows that for some popular cities, including Guilin, Nanchang, and Nanjing, from Hong Kong West Kowloon on the first day of the Easter holiday, all trains have sold out. Only a small number of tickets to Shanghai and Beijing remain. Travel agencies can apply in advance to the operator, MTR, to request ticket allocations and usually receive confirmation about 21 days before departure. If they are unsuccessful, they must buy tickets in the same way as the general public. Some agencies say they are having difficulty securing tickets, and some mainland tour groups have been affected and may need to shorten their trips. Mums 9, TVB News.
Celebrations of the Shing Cultural Festival continued in blackout on Sunday. The festival will last until April 1st. Mo Sinai again.
This may look like a dragon boat race, but it's actually a ritual of the Shing Festival, Blessing of Dragon Boats. The ceremony seeks the blessing of safe water from Shing, the sea deity. Paddlers from the 8 teams rowed toward the Aplazhou Shing Temple 3 times to honor the deity. Another tradition is to release lotus-shaped water lanterns, also known as vessels of wishes, into the sea for the blessings of safety, peace, and prosperity. For the first time, the festival offers a public session for visitors to place their water lanterns on a first-come, first-served basis.
I think it's great. It's great that they still celebrate it and represent it, yeah. We're going to stay around all day. I'm looking forward to the dragon parade.
I've seen it on the website. Yeah, the tourism website. It's pretty cool. I liked it. Yeah, I never got to see anything like that before when they're running on the poles, so that's pretty cool.
The festival has become part of the city's intangible cultural heritage since 2014. Apart from Aplazhou, Mui Wo and Shouchou are among the other locations that celebrate the sea deity.
In the afternoon, spectators gathered on Aplazhou Main Street waiting to see the parade, which this year consisted of 16 teams from different sectors. At around 2 p.m., the celebration began. A key element of the procession is to find statues of Shing and other deities in the tour. Carried by carriages, the statues were brought out from the Shing Temple to go through the streets of Aplazhou to bless the residents. Other performances include dragon and lion dance. Mums 9, TVB News.
The U.S. state of Hawaii is enduring its worst flooding in more than 20 years. State Governor Josh Green said the storm had damaged many parts of different islands within the state, and that the economic consequences are severe. But he said the federal government had promised to help.
Lots of damage at schools, roads, and then, of course, the innumerable events that have happened at people's homes where they've lost structure and it will have to be repaired. But I am happy to report that my chief of staff spoke to the White House today, and they are offering their assurance that we're going to have support. The same can be said of FEMA. They've been with us from the beginning, as they were with us in the fire and before. We have support, and we will come through this together.
Muddy floodwaters smothered vast stretches of Oahu's North Shore, famous for its big wave surfing. Raging waters lifted homes and cars and prompted evacuation orders for 5,500 people. Authorities also cautioned that a 120-year-old dam could fail. The natural disaster came less than 3 years after a major firestorm obliterated the Maui town of Lahaina, killing more than 100 people. And that's the news. Thanks for watching.